So first, I want to give a warm chamber welcome to everybody that has taken the time to join us today for a webinar on business continuity planning, especially during the pandemic that we're having. There's going to be lots of good information that businesses should be thinking about while we are currently in the pandemic and as we emerge on the other side of the wave at this point, but putting things in place that should be considered on a go-forward basis now that we are in a world with COVID. Daniel Fay, our guest presenter, is Managing Director with BrenDaniels Productions Corp. And that's a Halifax-based company specializing in project management certification support. Daniel did a course with our members about 2 years ago on project management, which was a great success, and we value his support through the Chamber. Dan has consulted literally worldwide, supporting more than 6,000 managers in project management and leadership, has been a speaker at international management symposiums, and has managed projects for teams from 3 people to well over 300 members. He's consulted with organizations in this region, including Rogers, Mobia, and Irving Shipyard, and now he's bringing some of that expertise here for members of our Toronto and Colchester Chamber of Commerce and the business community. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Dan.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Sherry. Okay, share the screen. Okay, you got my screens okay?
Yes,
Sherry,
we're all set.
Excellent, good stuff. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today, and I hope it's a we and not a me, but we'll see how things go, is continuity planning, getting to your new normal. Our organization had, I'll say opportunity, although maybe that's not the right word, to support organizations during the H1N1, which was in 2009. So this continuity planning is something we've already done wave 1 of with some organizations. And every organization we supported for that, people were saying, oh, we should have done this last year. So the challenge with continuity planning is while you do it in crisis, it's a lot harder, right? So it would have been really nice if we did some of these steps last September or last August. So that's the bad news. There's more bad news. Wave 2. So wave 2 is going to come in September, October. So we are trying to get into your new normal, some sort of comfort zone before wave 2 hits. The world in itself, forget about COVID, is very dynamic. And I think in the back of your head, you've always had things to say, well, if so-and-so leaves, we might shift our business this way. Or if we lose this customer, we might shift our business this way. That's continuity planning. In more of a crisis mode, we need to have it documented. We need to have everybody aligned, because as we send everybody home to work out of home, they should already be set up on how we're going to succeed. So one of the things, I have the technology, there we go. So what the plan is during this session is just talk about COVID-19 really quickly. What is pandemic planning and what is business continuity planning? What things does your organization need to focus on for change? And then you have to put a management framework in place for the change. Then you're going to determine the change, create the change, lead the change, be the change. So like any plan, things might shift as we're talking along. Sherry mentioned the fact that you can put questions into chat and things like this, but I'm quite okay with you unmuting yourself and starting to yell at me in the middle if you want to. Totally flexible on that sort of stuff. Ooh, noise. That means it's a 1980s slide if it's got noise like that. This one's been around, I think, for a while. So I'll do my best Donald Trump impression in that I'm not a doctor, okay? So I'm not about to tell you what COVID-19 is, even though that's what the slide says. What I'm trying to reinforce is that it is something that has hit us. It has hit pretty well everybody, but it's probably hit some businesses more than others. It impacts the people. With a flu and such things, it's not like our computers are crashing. Although I have heard there's been a real drive on the internet and things like this because of everybody working out of home. Some of the networks, home-based networks, are crashing. So I guess I have to take that back. But it does impact the people. And so what we have to do is look at how are we going to run our business when our people are not solid, not well-defined, not really knowing what's there. And when we're talking about people, we're not just talking employees. We're talking about our customers. We're talking about suppliers, really anywhere that we're working. Right? So as I mentioned, the second wave is going to come in September. Most organizations, and we'll hit this a couple of times, will be down numbers in their staff for an extended period. I know this says 2-week period. I'm hearing that some businesses are going to be impacted for up to 2 years. So the trouble is, if you try to continue business exactly the way you're doing it, the question is, are you ready to do that for another 2 years? Or do we have to make some adjustments in order to get your business to continue for a long period of time? One of the key things that you have to do as a business owner is not stress out. Now, I know you're going to disagree with this statement, in that stress is a choice. There are situations that happen that some people get totally stressed out on, and others just look at it and go, yeah, this is noise. In order for you to sort of move forward, you have to take the approach of, I've got this. No matter if a little something in your brain is saying, you have to get control and give this perception of control to your team, to your customers, to your suppliers. So with continuity planning, it's all about the people. And this came from the 1919 Spanish flu. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot in the middle, but the ones I'm aware of is SARS in 2003, the bird flu in 2006, H1N1 in 2009. I'm sure there's one in 2014-15 that we didn't really hear too much about. That's why, I don't remember it. But this is going to happen again. It's history. It's the way things go. So for us to think that the pandemic, that the COVID is going to come and go, yeah, maybe the COVID's going to come and go. But this pandemic planning, this continuity planning, it's with us for a while. So what we had is what we think was normal, right? Last September. Then early this year, the pandemic hits, and we're in the middle of that. And what we're trying to get to is the new normal. This is the way life happens. My wife and I have talked a couple of times on, you see these movies where people go back to when they were 16 and when they were 20 and they're so happy. Not me. I have no desire to go back to when I was 16 and 20 and all the rest of it. I'm looking forward to the next 5 years. Our business is somewhat the same. We do not want to go back to September 2019. We want to get to September 2020. That's where we want to get to. So people who are hanging on to old ways of doing business are going to have trouble because the world is changing, things are changing. Now, what has happened to us because of COVID is during the pandemic, we've had things almost forced on us. Okay. There are things that our company and your company has had to do because of what's happening. Is that necessarily bad? You're doing what you have to do to survive. One of the things we have to mull over is, are some of these changes the new normal? I'm a firm believer that some of those people that are working out of home now may continue to work out of home. Someone's going to say, this isn't so bad. This works really well. We can save on office space, Especially with the environment we're working in with childcare and no school and things like this. To ask people to come back into the office to get back to September 2019 just might not be a good idea. So as a result, some of these things that are happening are going to become our new normal. And then wave 2 hits. Now, we have to show a level of control for our team. We have to give some confidence to our team. And by team, I'm also including our suppliers and our customers. So that when the second wave hits, we go, yeah, we're ready for this. We've already put things in place that will help us get through this. So on these slides, and you'll be able to get the slide deck through the chamber, there are a number of questions that I encourage you to have discussions with your team. Or if you're a one-person organization, you have discussions in front of the mirror, right? So what new resource needs have arisen during the pandemic? What things have happened during the pandemic? And I'm not just talking about skill sets, but it could be that all of a sudden, because a supplier doesn't show up, you've had to do things in-house. You're doing your own photocopying or whatever the case might be. So are there resource needs that have happened during the pandemic? And do you see these perhaps as a long-term change? That supplier we're no longer using, perhaps we're not going to use them anymore. Okay? And is your organization set up to incorporate these needs? So we'll use the people working out of home. Is your organization set up to have people working out of home? And I'm talking about policies and procedures for the next 2 years. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you have to do that, but I think that if we had policies and procedures in place about home-based workers, it gives people confidence that we actually have control on what's going on. Oh, there we go again. So what exactly is a business continuity plan? One of the things that people have a hard time with is they're trying to maintain business. They're trying to sort of keep business as opposed to modifying their business model, continuing business. The whole objective is to survive, not survive the way we did business in September 2019, but just survive. That's really what we're looking at. How can we take steps to make sure we are still in business? If we try to do the business of old and take steps to do that, we're going to be in real trouble when the second wave hits. So let's make some adjustments. Let's change some things around. Okay, so the key is to continue it, not maintain it. And if we can put a business continuity plan in place, a documented plan, it gives people the perception, at least, that we know what we're doing. We can use it as a communications tool. We can show it to our team. And again, I shouldn't say we're lucky, but because we're in a crisis, I think we're doing a lot of what we need to do to stay in business. Okay, let's get it documented so the next time this happens, and it will, we go, oh yeah, we did this before. Here's the 7 steps we went through. And it gives people a good feel for how we run our business in a crisis. Now, it is a plan. And being a project management type, plans change continually. And that's okay. So the plan you put in place today or this week isn't going to be the same plan come August. Okay? But it is a plan. It sets a direction. It moves us forward. It's a communications tool. So my challenge to you is, does your organization have a documented business continuity plan? Do you have something documented that says, okay, if crisis happens, do these 7 steps? And the other thing is, and you're going to see this repeatedly, do your junior employees know what it is? Because having these plans at the very high level and then only having the CEO and the president and their best buddies know what's in it is useless. We have to give confidence to people. This has to be posted on the wall. Okay, so people see what we are up to. Let me just kill it. There we go. So what needs to change? Okay, By looking at that, I know that the building of that slide needs to change. That was all over the map. But in our organization, we have a vision and mission, or should. We have our products and services to deliver the vision and mission. And then our team has the methods and plans. So the mission and the vision of the organization is the why. Why does our organization exist? The products and services are the what, and the methods are the how. And then once we have the how in place, we'll put the who in there. Now, the why probably should not shift. So as Sherry mentioned, we do project management training. During the pandemic, we still do project management training. The how has changed immensely, okay? But we still provide project management development to organizations, okay? A little bit of the what has changed because we're not doing as much classroom-based as we were. Believe it or not, I still have a classroom-based course planned for 2 weeks from now. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but we're working on that. And that's my customer. My customer's not big on virtual stuff. So as a result, and this is part of our challenge with an organization, we do have our customer base. And so if they don't move with us, that's a bit of a problem. So try to stay consistent with your why, your strategic plan. However, the methods and plans, change them all the time. I know that might be heresy for some engineer types, but methods and plans, yeah, we can change the way we do things. Totally okay with that. So does your organization have a documented vision and mission? Do you have a documented strategic plan? And the question, of course, is do your junior employees know what it is? Do they have access to it? Can they make decisions? Because as I adjust my methods and plans, I still have to align with the vision and mission of the organization. So let's get the why solid. Let's really have a look at what it is. And maybe we can shift some of those other things. So some immediate actions. And I have to admit, this slide came from 2009. This was an H1N1 slide that came out of the work we did with them. But it hasn't changed at all. You need to have some sort of business continuity planning team. Admittedly, it could be a team of one, but you've got to have somebody that does have the authority to make some high-level business decisions on what we are doing or not doing. And then you've got to have a leader or champion. I usually recommend, if your company's of any size, don't make it anybody in legitimate authority. It's got to be the person that's got the influence. Have you had that in your organization where there's people who run the meetings, but then there's people who sit off to the side that actually run the meeting? Admittedly, we've watched CNN a fair bit, and I'm sure you guys, if you've watched it all, have seen Governor Cuomo from New York. I like him. He talks to the facts. He doesn't trash people. So I can sit and listen to him. However, he's got a young lady off to his left. If there are any hard questions, she has the answers. He sort of just looks half her way, and she comes up and she's got data, and she says, we had a meeting with this guy and this person accepted this. I mean, it's just amazing. She's the one I want running this team. That's what I want. So within your organization, find that person, and maybe it's you. And what it's doing is it's providing the perception you are in control. Admittedly, it's perception. I don't know if we'll ever be in total control ever. You know, COVID, no COVID. I don't think you're ever 100% in control of anything. But I need to give the perception that I have control and our team has control. The other thing it shows that we are being proactive. So admittedly, it would have been nice if we put this team in last September when we didn't need it. Okay, that would have been very proactive. Maybe it looks a little reactive, but I'm emphasizing again, wave 2. So we're being proactive for wave 2. It shows awareness that our business is changing. Continuity is almost like a business changing plan. And this team will set the direction. This team will start to make some decisions on business priorities. So does your organization have something like this? Sometimes it's a designated change manager, somebody who's looking at your organization and saying, is our organization set up to succeed for our customers in the environment we are in? And again, do your junior employees know who this person is? So in providing business priorities, we start with the strategic plan on exactly why does your organization exist. Sometimes organizations start to do other stuff. They don't stay totally focused on their core reason for being. And guess what? You've probably identified those during in April and May, because there's probably aspects of your business you have stopped doing because of the crisis. So the question is, why are we doing that stuff? Should we continue to do that stuff? Because what we're focusing on right now because of the crisis is those things that are critical to us. These are the things that are our business priorities. And the reason we have to let the team know what they are is because as they are making their day-to-day decisions on a task, I want them making decisions that they're moving the organization forward and getting the biggest bang for the buck of every decision that my team member makes. Now, there's an 80-20 rule, and I know you've seen this in a whole bunch of different ways, the Pareto rule, where 20% of our business provides 80% of the hit. So the question is 80 good enough? Do we just work on that 20%, reinforce it, and let the rest go? I'm not saying yes or no, but in these times of confined personnel or limited personnel, yeah, it's not a bad question to have. So what are your organization's priorities pre-pandemic? Why did you exist? And what are your business priorities now? So I'll give you a quick example. I work in Scouts, and we have a thing called the Atlantic Jamboree 2020. Yeah, 2020. It's not happening. Okay. So we did a full year's of work on the Atlantic Jamboree 2020 to get it into place. And then this thing happens and it moves to 2021. Now, up until the beginning of March when we canceled everything, actually it was the beginning of April, our focus was on money. Our focus was running a very cost-effective jamboree. 2021, our priorities have shifted. It has to happen. And we've sort of got acceptance of if we lose a little bit of money, that's fine, but it has to happen. That's our priorities. Make this happen. So our business priorities have changed, and your organization may have somewhat the same thing. The other thing that has happened is your customers' business priorities may have changed. What do they value? What are they willing to spend money on? So that's what we want to do, is figure out what our business priorities are. And then this is a very boring slide, and I apologize for this. It's for those with a project management background, you'll recognize this almost like a project management plan. But a management plan shows that, yes, we have stuff happening. However, we've got control of it. Because sometimes when change happens in an organization, it looks like you're spinning out of control. So with a change management plan, with which that team is leading, it's saying, yeah, things are shifting, but that's okay. We've got things in place. So there's a nice list there of what could be in it, but this plan is unique to your organization. So you're going to have to, knowing your employees and your customers, you're going to have to figure out, what do I need to document and put in place to give confidence to the people around us and the people using our business that we know what's going on. Okay. A little bit of smoke and mirrors, but you know, that's sort of where we are. Quick story, which a lot of you might be aware of. About 6 years ago, there was a movement of a Nova Scotia provincial government office from one building to somewhere else. And what happened is one of the employees sort of went to the manager and said, hey, where should I be? And the manager said, I'm busy. Go away. Leave me alone. So he kept going back to the manager and saying, hey, where am I supposed to go? Who should I report to? And the manager finally said, look, go home. Okay. And I will let you know when we are ready for you. Okay. 5 years later, he's getting an award for perfect attendance. And people are saying, we haven't seen him in a long time. I thought he died. Didn't he quit? No, he went home and he sat home for really 5 years. Perfect attendance. Yeah. They didn't have a business continuity plan in place. They didn't have someone leading the charge. I am worried that we have people working out of home that we just might never hear from again. If we don't have somebody overseeing the shift that is actually happening. So with our business, we have to determine what exactly is risk. And that's what all these plans are helping us do, is manage the risk. So risk basically is moving from uncertainty. You have constraints. It's hard to come up with probabilities. Things are unpredictable. And I know you're looking at it going, hey, Dan, that's us right now. And where we want to get to is be in control, be predictable, working from facts, being committed to success, planning for success. Now, if we don't have a continuity plan in place, we don't have a definition for success. We're just flapping in the wind and we're just trying to do what we can do to get to tomorrow. We really have to have a vision of where we think our business is going to be in August, in December, in March next year. And then what we've got to do is we've got to gather information. And in this information society, wow. And really, that's why you're here, is to gather information. And hopefully I'm going to give you 1 or 2 nuggets. And the webinar you listen to next week, you're going to get 1 or 2 nuggets. And you're going to pull all these together and pull out that information that applies best to your organization. And then when you take action, that will show the people around you that you do have management, you do have control of the risks, of the opportunities. And it's terrible to look at something like the COVID as an opportunity. Our organization, BrenDaniels Productions, we do training. We did a shift to virtual training quite a while ago. So about 50% of our business 4 months ago was online training. Yeah, we're close to 100% right now. That shift wasn't as hard for us. Now, we had looked at some information and we looked at the trend and we looked at our market, which is international. And that's what you have to do as well. And only you can decide what information do you need to have to at least give yourself the semblance that you are in control, right? So there is a shift. You get to define what the new environment is. And the only way you can plan for success is accepting that things are going to change and you have to change with them. I don't think it's fair to blame the environment and blame the stuff happening for what is happening to us. It's influencing us. It is somewhat impacting us. But the people it impacts the most are the people who don't have a management framework in place. And that's hopefully what I'm trying to provide with you. Some of the processes have to shift. So I've seen this so many times where there's been a shift to an organization and they're still trying to do a 6-person process with just 4 people. Okay? It really does not work. So on the 21st of May, 2020, do your processes and do your workforce match? And if your processes do not match, let's get them changed. And I know you're saying, oh yeah, but Dan, next month it'll be different. And I'm okay with that. Change it again, okay? But to have old processes using today's workforce just makes it look like you're out of control. You don't know what you're doing. At least if I have the right definition in place, It gives that perception, it gives that confidence. The other thing that's going to happen is as we ask our team to return to work, they want a viable framework that they're working in. I would not want to be one of these 4 people coming back and trying to do something that I know darn well took 6 people to do. Okay, so let's get our processes updated. So you figure out what your risk items are. It's not a bad idea to do some sort of risk identification session. Okay, and pick those 2 or 3 things that you really need to work on to give the greatest confidence in how your team is doing stuff. So in planning for the new normal, these are things that are happening, but they may stay. Okay. There was a webinar I attended last week where it said 29% of jobs could be done from home. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what percentage are done from home now, but that seems like a lot. And I know that's a very general number, and your specific business is, yeah. But maybe that's the new normal. Maybe having diminished revenues is the new normal. Some of these extra things we're working on, yeah. We do know the pandemic is global, so outside assistance, I mean, our business model was to have customers. We have customers in the States, in Canada, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe. Okay. So we have customers all over the place because we always felt that, well, you know, if the North American market gets bopped, we go somewhere else. The whole world's been bopped. So that model hasn't really helped us on this. So getting outside assistance, yeah. We're not going to have full staff. You can't plan on people working overtime. You've seen this a lot in the news. You know, people just saying, yeah, some people saying, I'm not even going into work. I'm staying with my family. You know, the basketball players, the hockey players, there's always that discussion of, yeah, I'm not going back to work. Not all of us have that luxury, but people working overtime, oh, that's not going to be good. You might lose some people depending on your the type of people you have working for you, to your metrics. And government departments, government suppliers, they're not going to be totally available. This sounds negative, but I don't necessarily mean it. But Canada Post and US Mail has come to a grinding halt. I'm not sure what's happening there, but getting snail mail now, it's, at least for us, it's been insane. So some of these things, so if your organization is highly dependent on some of these things, having processes that depend on this stuff when we know the new normal may not be the same efficiency is just planning for failure. So let's make some adjustments. Let's make some changes to our process so we're less dependent on this stuff. Okay? So what policies or procedures were most impacted by the pandemic for you? So which of your policies or procedures basically got thrown out the window where you went, yeah, this doesn't apply anymore? But my question is, did you change them? Right? Can they be changed? Some of them might be regulatory, which means they can't change. And I think the governments have been pretty good for having a little bit of flexibility on certain things like that. But you really have to change them, especially if they're going to be part of the new normal. If you're going to have people working out of home for a long period of time, like the next 2 years, you need policies and procedures that support people working out of home. So this is what you have to put in play. So that phase 1 of the new normal is a tough one. What elements of your organization provide the greatest impact? And remember, we talked about 20%. And we want to optimize those. That is building on success. That's really what we're looking for. There are other elements of your organization that are no longer viable, that you've stopped doing in April or May. In looking at your metrics, they really don't contribute to your strategic plan. Maybe you were positioning or trying to open up a new market. You have to revisit that decision. Do we want to throw good money after bad? So if a part of your business is not core, then stop doing it. Okay. Use partners, get help. The one I used to always push in my junior years as a project manager in software is we always had our engineers do documentation. And that used to drive me nuts because engineers don't have documentation skills. That's not what their university thing did for them. There are companies whose core business is documentation. So why don't we go to them? And that's what you have to revisit. Do I really want to do that aspect of the business, or do I go to a company that does this as their life? This is what they do. So I do see a lot more partnerships and things like this, and organizations focusing on why they exist in the first place. So what are your organization's business processes? And then what you have to do is you have to prioritize them according to the business priorities, which we talked about a couple of slides ago. And then those lowest priority items, should they be continued or not? And it is a tough one. And I have to admit, for the H1N1, this was our business, because we don't own, if I was to come into your organization, I don't own any of your businesses. I don't have any ownership of your processes and what you guys do. I'm a very cold person. I can just sit there and say, that needs to go. If you try to do this internally to the organization and you say that needs to go, somebody's going to get their nose out of joint and they're going to be hurt. They're the CEO's second cousin twice removed. And then it's really tough to do it. So you might want to get outside help on that one. The second phase is coming bottom up. That is getting your team involved so we have a shared ownership, right? What methods, what techniques do we need to change? And most of my teams are a lot younger and smarter than I am. So what we need is some creativity, innovation. The COVID has given us an opportunity to make large changes without any flack. Normally, if we went to our team and said, I think we need to totally change the way we do this, they'd fight us. Now they're not going to do it. I think people are a little more open to how do we survive. So getting creative, getting innovative is going to define something that's going to take us right into 2022. That's what we're looking for. So if we work from bottom up, if your team has a partnership in creating this stuff, they're going to come back to work. They're going to be working on processes and on methods that they defined. Now, what we have to do at the higher level, assuming we're at the higher level, is roll up the different plans. And it says divisional draft plans, which makes you sound like a huge thing, but it could just be plans by teams of 2. Review them, collate them together, so we take the best practices of the different plans. And sometimes there might be conflicts between the teams. And this is where the business continuity planning team will sit in and say, okay, here is the priority. This is what we need to do. I worked with an organization where our mantra was the customer's always right, the customer's number one, and da, 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 da. And it sounded sort of whatever. However, when I was on a project and we were having a decision made, I'd turn to my team and say, which one would the customer pick? And it was amazing how many times they were united. Even though they were arguing before technically, they were united where they said, well, the customer would pick that one. So I could go, great, that's what we're doing. Now, if you've read Good to Great by Jim Collins, I'm going opposite of his approach. And then I'm defining the new normal first and then see the who. Do we have the right people? He goes with the approach of you start with the people and build the processes around them. However, I think people are looking for a little bit of ownership by us as the senior people. So our resource pool has to change. Training is really, really important, okay? So with our new normal, employees may not be as available as they are now, especially if you're the type of organization where people work overtime, they work on the weekends. I really think that's going to change. So employee availability, are there unique skill sets? And these things are true in any time. but more now. Is there a unique skill set within your organization that if they are not available, we are done? So we need to train a little more so we have people with these skill sets. Do we have sole suppliers, sole goods, sole services, like one point of success? So what we're trying to do is, in defining the new normal, not be as dependent on these bottlenecks. Okay. So we have to look at what resources we need to be more flexible with our organization. Our customers are changing. This will sound whatever. Maybe we need new customers. Maybe we need to shift that. Regulations. There's going to be new laws going out. I mean, regulations right now on transport. So I mentioned earlier, I have a team in Montreal that actually wants me to show up. And I think I can get there. I'm trying to figure out what paperwork I need to get there. My trouble right now is getting back into Nova Scotia. And I have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. So I have to know the regulations on how I can pull this business off and still be able to do it. Now, once we have the resources in our mind, we have to have the processes based on our manpower. We need a 4-person process for our 4-person team. Another challenge that some organizations are going to have is equipment and the use of equipment and the safety of it. There's a commercial. I don't know if I should tell, but I am anyway. It's an Eastlink commercial where an Eastlink guy comes and he goes up a ladder and he gets the ball off of the roof. I don't know if you've seen it or not, throws it down to the kids. He doesn't have anybody manning the ladder. I mean, he's broken every safety rule there is in the commercial. In our businesses, we have to know what is unsafe practices based on our manpower. And there might be things that we currently do that if we do not have the people in place, we just cannot do them anymore. So what resource challenges, and this mirrors a bit of the questions we had earlier, but what resource challenges have you had in the past months? Is it availability? Is it communications? Is it getting them to complete things on time? Is it the technology? And have you adapted these as a new normal? Are you accepting these as perhaps the way we continue to do business? Because I'm a believer that what we're doing now on the 21st of May, we're probably still going to be doing into August. So is your organization set up to run how it's running today for a couple of months, at least till September? And if not, you need to make some adaptations. You need to get some things in place so that you can continue to succeed. So if we look at the core skills, this is a nice list, but you have to figure out what your team needs. I think people are going to be working more independently. Okay. Having them certified is good. It proves their capability to customers and to suppliers and to partners. Do they know the latest technologies? Can they lead themselves? And we'll talk more about that in a sec. Are they entrepreneurs? Are they self-starters, innovative, creative, trusting? I guess, and theory Y are the people who just get things done. If you leave a theory Y person alone for a week, they get amazing stuff done. So I guess I would challenge you. Does this list define your current employees? And if it doesn't, perhaps you need to revisit your training programs. Because I believe that these are the sort of skills that are going to get us into September, into January 2020. So what skills have you discovered are lacking during the crisis? What are some things that you wish you had done a lunchtime learning on last August, last September? And what are you doing to incorporate them into your new normal? Do you have processes that support creative thinking? Do you have processes that show trust and respect for your team? Or do you still have processes that check in with them every hour on the hour? So this is what we have to do. We have to set up that environment to be able to assist us there. So in preparing the work environment, we need people to feel safe. That's what we want. And these people are your employees, your customers, suppliers. So training your team up in business continuity, in pandemic, right? New skills perhaps they need to be able to do this new normal. Cross-functional training I agree with, but I don't like. I still like having specialized people, but that's a Danism. But I do see the need that every now and then people are going to have to do other jobs. And as we mentioned a couple of times, getting your team certified to international standards is like so critical. And then we update our processes, update our communication strategy, because this will sound sort of, I wouldn't want to put all this effort in to get my team going and not let everybody know. I don't know if any of you have gone back to university or gotten a certification, you get your MBA or you get your PMP. The first thing you do is you drop it on LinkedIn, you let everybody know, right? Now, playing devil's advocate, letting everybody know doesn't take, like if you didn't tell anybody, you'd still have your MBA. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people what we are doing and what we're trying to put into play. You need to improve your supplier partnerships. You need to improve the way that you do business with others. And one of the other things we have to do is we have to look at the supplies needed for the next wave. I have a friend who he works at a mortuary, and he's got all his stuff from H1N1. So when this was coming, he basically said, yeah, we're all ready. We've got more masks than we could ever want. We've got stuff. So maybe we want to get those supplies in place if a lull comes for the next wave. And that's not just sort of pandemic supplies. I know it sounds whatever, but it's paper. It's whatever supplies you ran out of during April and May that you could not get access to because your suppliers were not available. So is there training you wish your team had completed in 2019? And what suppliers can come in and help you define your new normal and getting things into play? So updating the policies and the practices is going to be key. One of the things that I know has been mentioned, been said a few times and I've seen is, I don't know if you've had the instance where someone comes in to work sick, and forget COVID, but just they've come into work sick with the flu, and you sort of go, you really shouldn't be here. And they say, well, I got to get paid. Right? We need to have policies in place that people who are sick stay home. Customers who are sick stay away. And then once you have these in play, communicate. So a couple of lessons learned from H1N1. You cannot over communicate. You cannot be too safe. Okay. You're going to have to change some of the ways that your organization looks. You might have to rethink your floor plan. You might have to create new norms. No hugging, no shaking hands. Minimize share equipment. Stop using other people's stuff. Right? And the other thing that a lot of organizations are looking at is, can we stagger the hours of work? And a lot of organizations, I know with the H1N1 said, oh, well, we can never do that. But I said, yeah, you can. It's going to take your customers a couple of months to get used to it, but you can. So you can do any of this stuff to be able to move forward. So I want you to revisit on your own which of these apply. And the last but not least is you have to take a leadership role in this. You are leading the transformation of your organization to a new normal. So first of all, you have to see yourself as leading the charge. You have to take a clear stand that we are moving forward. You have to trust your people. You have to be true to yourself. So there's a core set of values that you have at home and work. Number 5, you're proving it by being here, of being a lifelong learner. You continually have to shift. And the next one is hard. Be able to confidently deal with uncertainty. Yuck. But things are going to happen. Things are going to change daily. And you have to say, no, it's okay. I got control of this. Now you can go back into your office and shut the door and scream at a wall, but in front of the team and the customers, you have to sit there and say, nope, this is good. We are there. And if you have a vision for January 2020 and you move everything towards it, oh, it's amazing. So my question to you is, are you ready to lead your organization to the new normal? So now you know what I know. My last point is, try not to think you are in a recovery mode. Recovery mode suggests you're going back. I don't want you going back. I want you moving forward. I want you to redefine your success. If you go into recovery mode and you go back, when the second wave hits, it's going to be twice as hard. Okay? And those who moved forward, your competitors, who had a vision for moving ahead, yeah, they're going to be that much farther ahead. Farther, further? Yeah, I never know that one. But anyway, yeah, they're going to be ahead of where you are. So I'm afraid that I can stay online if people have questions. My email address is there, and you also have access to the chamber. So if after you get back to your organization, you look at this and go, yeah, what did he mean by this? Feel free to get a hold of me. But if you have any questions now, I'm willing to have a look at them. Let me have a look at the chat.
There.
Okay.
Take them off mute now. Thank you, Daniel.
Job descriptions and tasks that are currently being pushed outside of comfort levels. I believe now it's time to look at the project team and focus on skill sets and values with consistency versus a static job. Yeah, and that's where the innovation, the creativity has to have. Now, if I have sort of gone to my team to say, can you define the job? Can you define the job description? I shouldn't say they will have more ownership of it, but you don't, with job descriptions, you don't really want to be top down anyway. What I want to do is be able to go to my team and say, this is what I need done. You figure out how to do it. And the how to do it is the job description. And if I can give that to the team, I definitely agree with you. They're going to be able to get things done, okay? And you are right. I do believe that our job descriptions have to shift, and this is a good opportunity to throw the book out and say, let's start from scratch, okay? So thanks very much for that, Ange. Let's see, the hospitality industry has been hit very hard, yeah? Do you have any clients related to hospitality? If so, what do you recommend? Well, I work in the aviation industry. I don't know if that really counts as hospitality, but they've been, as you can guess, severely hit. They are going to have to come up with a new business plan. With restaurants, for instance, I do not believe we're going to have crammed restaurants anymore, but restaurants can redefine the restaurant experience. The tables can be farther apart. We might have nice dividers between the tables to make it more intimate. I think that a lot of the hospitality things have to redefine what they are providing. And I believe, and I'm not in the industry, if they do it well, their prices can go up. So maybe the hit's not going to be quite as bad. I don't think that they have to provide better value for the same price. So I think it's a little bit of a redefinition on it. Okay. So the why is we are still here. Like, you know, you're there to provide people with a safe place to sleep, da, 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 da. That why has not changed. How we do it, totally changed, for sure. So are there any follow-up questions to that? Oh, 2 new messages. Hang on just a sec. Yeah, engagement of team members. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so if you have additional questions, make sure you drop them off to me. My email address is there. Or get a hold of Sherry. Okay, she's got answers too.